Call the names. Wake the room. Wake the room. Lulu! Rex! Babbler! Naomi! Aphasiana! Babbler! Monarch Soul! Jojo! Gray eyes! Fill my eyes! Poets assemble. No masks, no manners. Say it plain or say it broken. Monday night in the garden of enlightenment. Low light lit minds, every line got intent. Clock ticks crooked and the room turns vigilant. Quiet so loud you can hear what the tension meant. Then it slips after midnight, manners get murdered. Nice little masks get cracked by a word or a murmur. Twisted Tuesdays twist truth till it turns on its heel. Clean cut faces go strange when the dark gets real. You can feel that shift, that slick little slip when the grin stays sweet, but the eyes don't sit. Like the room grew ribs, like the walls grew ears, like the hush got hands and it's pulling you near. And the words don't rest, they press, put a heel on the chest, leave a dent in the breath. Every line like a knock from the back of the brain, like you came in one shape. You won't leave the same. Late night poets, where the room leans in, where the sharp gets shown in the soft door dim. Hear the whole thing shift from a whisper in the ribs to a line that lifts from the darkened edge of doubt to the pull you can't ignore. We don't just read the night, we make it something more. Say it plain, say it broken. Late night poets. Wednesday breaks parts and apart, sink down the spine, half halo, half hazard, both hands in the light. Then the art of seduction walks off through the smoke. Silk on the tongue with the blade in the joke. Books and bards wakes dust in the depth of the shelves. Old ghosts lean out and start naming themselves. In our coffins selling art, the ache gets a voice. Pain stands up straight and makes silence a choice. Then break on through when the dead boogies weigh. When the masses sink but the pulses pray. Echoes in the dark go hunting in the fear. That thing with no name starts ringing in your ear. Say it. Tongue water it down, let it bite, let it bloom, let it burn through the crowd. Bad company grins like a bruise, dressed smart in rhythm and rhyme, puts a boot through the heart. Late night poets, where the room leans in, where the sharp gets shown in the soft door dim. Late night poets, hear the whole thing shift from a whisper in the ribs to a line that lifts from the darkened edge of doubt to the pull you can't ignore. We don't just read the night, we make it something more. Say it plain, say it broken. Late night poets, some come shattered, some come slick, some speak honey with a blade in it. Some sound velvet, some sound wire. Some walk in low and take the room higher. Some come holy, some come liars. That's the thing, this ain't feeling for the dead space, no. There's a pulse for the pen, this is blood with the net go. This is breath with a backbone, ink with a crown, loud mics like nerves, truth laid bare in the round. This is the beautiful mess, the bruise and the bloom, the line that cuts clean and makes a little room. Late souls, wide eyes, all nerve in the dark. something more. Late night poets. When the clock slips past polite, we tell the truth. L&P, we love you. Stay frosty.
Hello, and welcome everyone to Part Sinner, Part Saint. We're a part of allpoetry.com, or that's where we get our poems from anyway. This is the show Part Sinner, Part Saint, where good and evil are not black and white. We all have a little naughty and nice. Poetry allows us to explore our dark sides and shine paths to the light. Right, with the demon and the angel on your shoulders. Welcome, everyone. I'm hosting tonight. I'm Babbler. I'm here every night, but I'm usually kind of co-hosting with Aphasiana. But she is out today, celebrating her day of birth. And filling in, I have the lovely Pam Ray. Hi, Pam.
Hey, Babbler. How's it going?
It's going. It's going.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, well, happy birthday to Faisy. I hope she has an absolutely wonderful day and wonderful week. Lots of fun and a big one.
Indeed.
So absolutely.
Congratulations to her.
Yes.
How are you doing, Pam?
I am doing good. I had a very lazy day. Not much got accomplished, but that's all right. Looking forward to hanging out with you and going through some awesome poetry. And life is good. Just not very exciting, which is absolutely fine with me.
That's great. I love it when life is not exciting.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
That's a good time.
It is. It is. Oh, by the way, if you could, when you go to put the first poem up to read, if you could put up Ben Hart first for you to read and comment on, because I noticed the audio for the one poem we have audio for didn't get loaded, and I can do that, but it takes me a few minutes. So
yeah, no problem.
I need that okay, cool.
Yeah, no problem. I can
Cool,
do that.
So.
So for tonight's show, I have a contest that I started, and I'll go ahead and start with that. And if we get through those, then I have carryovers from last week. And the reason I'm doing the carryovers second and the new poems first is because the carryovers are from Aphasiana's contest. And I thought, well, maybe she'd like to read those. So depending on how long things take, we may or may not get to them. So the contest for this week, I called it Original Poem Inspiration, which abbreviated is OPI. I was just feeling kind of silly, and we were discussing all the nail polish names on a show we had previously, and how they're pretty creative and pretty wild for OPI. So I decided to look up all of the nail polishes, of which there are over 1,700. And
Holy
I put
moly.
right, and I put them all in a spreadsheet, and used a random number generator to pull a random nail polish name. So the contest was literally just to pick an OPI nail polish color from the list that was linked in the contest and use it as the inspiration for a poem. That was it. That's the prompt. You could use color itself, the name, the mood it gives you, some weird association your brain makes with when you read it. Absolutely anything else it sparks. The poem does not have to be about nail polish, beauty, or even the actual color. If I'm Not Really a Waitress makes you want to write about somebody lying about their entire life, go for it. If Lincoln Park After Dark turns into a poem about wandering around Chicago at 2 a.m., sure. If Bubble Bath somehow becomes existential horror, I would personally love to see where that goes. The only rule was the poem had to be inspired by an actual OPI color from the linked list. Could be any style, any length, any subject, serious, funny, romantic, disturbing, completely ridiculous. I do not care. Just take the name and run with it. So that was the contest for this week. Got some. I'm hoping I got some interesting rights for it. So I will start by posting the poem by Ben Hart, and I will give it a read. So this is "The Clouds Have Gotten So Loud Since You Left" by Ben Hart. 1. Today, I sang happy birthday in whispers to the bird dying at the doorstep. It was a nightingale. Perhaps the cat remembered how you always wanted to see one of those, although probably not like this. 2. Today, I watched a swan drag its body like a snake does its prey across the sky, alone, into the toothless maw of nightfall. They have a tendency to die of heartbreak. Funny, isn't it? The things that come the end we're helpless against, envying. 3. Today, I let the ground fall away from me, and the starlings rushed in to see if my skin rippled upon meeting them, like yours had. And for a moment, grief let itself be dispossessed of the sheer noise of it all, and all was well again. End poem. So, just for funsies, the prompt on that one was the nail polish colors "No More Mr. Night Sky" and "Exotic Birds Do Not Tweet," which I thought was a fun selection. So, those were the colors. Looks like PM is still not back in the studio, so I will go ahead and give comments on this. I like the vignette. You know, it's still kind of this wandering. You know, I think Ben touches a lot on the topic of grief, and he does it in a really beautiful and wistful way that I really appreciate. Using these birds as a metaphor, sometimes a metaphor, but also sometimes just like an observation that can then be applied in another place. I also feel like today, the way each section starts with "today," I feel like they're not the same day. Like they could be the same day, but I almost feel like it's a undated like diary entry. You know, like a you start every diary entry with like "today this happened," but we don't get like the dates, the intro. We get the 1, 2, 3. I could be wrong about that, but that's how it feels to me. It feels like these are not necessarily all on the same day. They're like different entries and different thoughts that show kind of progression of mindset. I also imagine singing "Happy Birthday" to a bird that's dying, like a nightingale that the cat dragged in that isn't quite dead, and singing "Happy Birthday" to it. I'm assuming that it's the deceased loved one's birthday, and obviously wouldn't probably know whether or not it's the bird's birthday. You know, it almost feels like "Happy Death Day" is more appropriate. I almost hear the birthday song in like this sad minor key, you know, "Happy birthday," you know, just kind of in a depressing kind of way, because you miss somebody, you know, to see this nightingale and remember that, you know, it's like a stand-in for a dream, right? The deceased loved one wanted to see a nightingale, and they didn't really get to. And so it's almost like the literal interpretation of a dying dream, the death of a dream. You know, to not see this nightingale. Although, and then the little bit of humor there, the little wry humor, although probably not like this. You know? Yeah, I doubt the dream was to see a dying nightingale that's been mangled by a cat. If so, that's a bit specific and a lot a bit odd. And then the second little vignette, watching the swan, and this drag its body like a snake does its prey across the sky. The snakes kind of just eat things, so it made me think of, you have and when they eat, they unhinge their jaw and they eat the thing whole, and it kind of creates a lump in their body. And I thought that was kind of a funny imagery to picture, like a swan with its long neck, flying kind of elegantly in the sky, as a like snake with a large whole bit of prey in it, where its body mass would be like what it's eaten. And to see that when you look up and see a flying swan, I thought that was an interesting uh, way to think of it. And it's interesting how it ties into the previous, vignette with, like, about death and predation. Um, instead of the cat and the bird, now we've got a bird that looks like a snake that's eaten something. Alone into the toothless maw of nightfall, which again I find interesting because we're talking about birds, which generally do not have teeth. Um, so I think of more like a gullet. And then they have a tendency to die of heartbreak. So you've still got this sense of loss, and now you're looking at a swan, and swans mate for life, and they pair off, and they do mourn when their mate dies, and many times will die of heartbreak. If they don't find a new mate, which they can. It's interesting. It's like we say mate for life, but it really kind of is like mate until death. But it's still this kind of mourning that goes with this, and then we get back into that wry humor. Funny, isn't it? The things that come at the end when we're helpless against envying. This it's this generalization. It's interesting for the narrator to assume that everyone kind of shares the mindset of, wanting the same thing. Helpless against envying. I don't know that I'm helpless against envying. I think many times there comes a peace with death. That's the thing about death. It's not really the person dying who suffers. It's the people left behind. But I don't know that I necessarily envy the person passing. I can certainly relate to that, and I hope that when it is my time, I am at peace with that. But it's not. I've certainly never watched someone die and envied their position. So this is kind of interesting. It's an unusual mindset to kind of wish you could die from heartbreak. And then today I let the ground fall away from me. To me that's like I kind of let go of things. And the starlings rushed in to see if my skin rippled upon meeting them, like yours had. And I thought that was interesting too, because it's like, is the idea that they were checking to see if he was an apparition, if he wasn't real, and that would be the skin rippling, or if it was like a reflection, and when you touch water, it kind of undulates. There's kind of an unrealness to that, right? Like to have rippling skin upon meeting starlings. And I think the answer here is no, because it's like yours had, not like mine has, and not like a yes, it did. And for a moment, grief let itself be dispossessed of the sheer noise of it all, and all was well again. Just that kind of letting go, the letting yourself feel lighter, kind of processing a bit, or maybe even just shutting it off a bit. There's a lot of times where I'm going through depression and I'm like, look, I'm not suicidal. Like, I don't want to die, and I'm not going to take any actions towards that because that's not what I'm thinking. But I wish I could just not exist for a day or two. Just not exist. And it's hard to explain because it's like there's no wanting for death. There's just wanting for like a stop of that sense of dread and the pressures of everything, and just given that time to decompress without all of the responsibilities of adulthood on your shoulders. It's kind of what it feels like to me. It's just the giving yourself that space. So I thought this was a lovely piece. It was sad and wistful, and pretty. So well done, Ben.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have to agree. As always with Ben Hart, this is a beautifully written vignette. I thought the use of birds and nature um, for, imagery and metaphors added a great consistency in tone to the right. I have to say that I really thought this was such a clever idea for a contest, but I did start looking at that ginormous list of names, and it was like, oh my goodness, I'm completely overwhelmed. I don't know which one to write to.
Well, the good news is the generator made it come up one at a time, so you didn't have to read all 17.
Yeah, that was helpful, but yeah, I made the mistake of looking at the list. So yeah, that generator was really cool. I'm gonna have to go back and do that. And yeah, I like the imagery and metaphors. Even, the title itself, "The Clouds Have Gotten So Loud Since You Left." I like that uses personification, but it also just uses clouds as a representation for grief and mourning. Um, wonderful lines throughout. It's an excellent write on those moments where one remembers the beauty of time shared and grieves for what is lost. I thought there were great lines throughout. But I did especially like that second vignette. Today, I watched a swan drag its body like a snake does its prey across the sky, alone into the toothless maw of nightfall. They have a tendency to die of heartbreak. Funny, isn't it? The things that come the end we're helpless against envying. Those are really powerful lines. And I have to say, the way the description of the swan, I watched a swan drag its body like a snake does its prey across the sky. That is such a great description because of the extremely long neck that the swan has. It's the end stanza just really does speak to me on the idea of how overwhelming life can feel, and how overwhelming grief can feel. And I have to agree with you about what you said about depression, though I have in moments in my life dealt with suicidal thoughts and tendencies, but most of the time it does feel like depression is just wanting to take a really long nap, like maybe a 24-hour nap or something like that, so, but wonderful write by Ben Hart, and very well done.
Agreed. It's a beautiful piece. I've posted the next one on the board if you want to give that one a read, Pam.
I would be happy to. All right. Robin's Egg Blue by Tribal Man. She is a little show off with auburn hair and pristine fair colored skin, a little trickster, but in a podophilia way, in denim jeans, likes to get a manicure and a pedicure at the spa in the mall, experiments with colors. Her dainty size sixes are so pretty. Invited me for breakfast at Tiffany's trailer for omelets and hash browns, sipping on her buttery caramel cappuccino, white cap with hand painted sunflowers, slipping off her sandals, bare feet resting. Her painted toes were dressed in robin's egg blue. End poem.
Well, lovely read. And this is such an interesting take on this prompt. So, there's a photo with it that's of toenails that are painted a robin's egg blue. And this is just me, but I'm like, wow, those are long. I would never have my toenails.
I don't know. I'm having trouble telling if those are dainty size 6s. So.
I don't know, because so it's funny. I get a lot of comments on my feet at work, and that sounds silly, but like I work in seafood, and so where I wear like rubber boots, and they don't have rubber boots that fit me because I have pretty large calves, but I don't have very large feet. So I end up cutting off all of the height of the boot, and so they're basically just little slip-ons. And people all the time are like, they sell them like that. And I say, yes, but they don't give them to me for free at work. And people comment on how small my feet are, and my feet are not that small. And I don't know why I constantly get comments on it. I mean, it's like multiple times a year, and has been for years. And my feet are a size 8. It's not that small. And I'm like, why do my feet look so small to everybody? I don't know. But I get a lot of comments on it, on how little my feet are, and I'm like, they're very average size feet. Size 6 feet are kind of dainty. I have a very average size foot. Average to the point where it's difficult to find shoes because they're always sold out.
Yes.
There aren't any available. Not to say I don't sympathize with the women who have very large feet, because their difficulty is finding any because they just don't make very many. Yeah, mine aren't in stock, and theirs were never made. So take your pick. But this feels. I mean, this has like sexual undertones to it. To view this woman as a little show off already feels like kind of weirdly flirtatious, with auburn hair and pristine fair colored skin. You've got this redheaded women, and there's always something about redheaded women being portrayed as like a little bit spicy for some reason. It's a weird stereotype. And this pale skin. But essentially the author is just finding them beautiful, and a little trickster, but in a podophilia way. So we're talking about like in a foot fetish way. So it's like they're pretty, but they also have like pretty feet. In denim jeans, likes to get a manicure and a pedicure at the spa in the mall. That is like the last place I go to get a pedicure. I mean, it's fine, but like the mall ones tend to be kind of grubby, in my experience. Experiments with color. There are like hundreds, thousands of nail polishes. I mean, just this one brand has over 1,700. So, yeah, there's quite a few colors to pick from. But then there's this appreciation of her feet. Invited me for breakfast at Tiffany's trailer, which I thought was interesting too, because it's like, now I feel like Tiffany's is not like the movie Breakfast for Tiffany, Breakfast with Tiffany, Breakfast at Tiffany's, the Audrey Hepburn film. It's now been morphed into like this little weird country diner that serves omelets and hash browns. Yeah, it's like much less ritzy. It's a trailer. So I picture like a little country diner, which I thought was a fantastic, like an interesting take. It'd be kind of a cute name, honestly, for a little diner. It's just Tiffany's, as a breakfast place. It's funny, I haven't really seen one. There's got to be one. Sipping on her buttery caramel cappuccino, white cup with hand-painted sunflowers. The yellow flower to perfectly show off your blue nail polish, assuming it matches your toes. Slipping off her sandals, bare feet resting, her painted toes were dressed in robin's egg blue. I can't say that I would ever take my shoes off in a restaurant. I don't know. Maybe that's me, but I feel like if I'm sitting at a diner and I look over and there's some woman with her feet out, I'm just like, I'm glad I'm keeping mine on. I mean, people track stuff in on the bottom of their shoes all the time. You know, like dog poop, dirt, pee. Like, mm-mm. No. So, maybe that's just me. But I found this piece like cute and flirtatious. It has like sexual undertones without, well, maybe even overtones. I'd go so far as to say, without being like raunchy about it in any way. You know, it's clearly the narrator here loves feet and loves this woman's feet and likes that she shows them off and takes care of them. So it's a cute little snapshot. But you know, the subtext on it, I keep going, huh? But that's just me, not the poem. That's just my reader's perspective. So thank you, Tribal
Absolutely. Absolutely. I get that. Well, I was wondering about, as far as people commenting on your small feet, could I ask how tall you are?
Okay, well, I'm 5'3.5".
Okay.
And but most people are surprised by that too. Everyone seems to think I'm taller than I am.
I get that. I get that. I was just curious because I thought maybe if you were like a little taller and you had size 8 feet,
Sure.
you
Yeah,
know,
if
it
I
might
was
be a
like
perspective
5'10",
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be like, you know, if you were 5'10" and had size 8, you'd be like a mutant or something.
I'd be falling over. But no, I'm not that tall either. Although, like I said, a lot of times people are surprised by that as well.
Yeah, yeah. That happens to me too at the height, not with the feet, but my feet are 8.5 to 9, depending on the shoes, so they are a little
Mhm.
bigger. And I'm 5'4", but yeah, people aren't always good at estimating heights. But I did too find this flirtatious. I like the use of the word podophilia. I thought that was cool. I have to admit, the first time I started reading that line, invited me for breakfast at Tiffany's trailer, I thought, this is like some sort of, I don't know, country bumpkin threesome or something. I didn't know what was happening.
I love that.
But I feel part of what I like about this is the contradiction between the atmosphere and this woman. You know, she's flirtatious, she's a trickster. She drinks buttery caramel cappuccino with white, you know, in a white cup. And, you know, like I feel like people who go to a place for omelets and hash browns called Tiffany's Trailer don't generally drink buttery caramel cappuccino. Like I feel like they're the black coffee, maybe a touch of cream, you know, half and half or something like that from the little plastic packets. But yeah, there was some wonderful little tidbits of sensuality without being vulgar. I like the description of this woman. I thought that he compared, you know, saw the you know, robin egg blue with breakfast at Tiffany's. And that's the thing is with nail polishes is there's only actually physically so many colors, but it's insane how just like a little differences, you know, like just in shades and tones, and you know, whether you have it more glossy or more matte. But yeah, I don't know, like it's delightful. And I have to say, I did read the rights ahead of time, and this one I think to me was the most literal interpretation of the prompt. And I very much enjoyed this.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a habit of not pre-reading, but I think that's just because I like my impression when I do the show to be like my first impression. And maybe there's pros and cons to that, right? Because I may end up disagreeing with myself
Oh,
later,
absolutely.
or I may end up reading something that I'm like, whoa.
And you're not alone there. Like I know Rex very much likes to do that. Jean likes to do that. Robbie does. There's quite a few of our hosts and hostesses that really like the poem to be read. Like their first impression when the poem is read on the show, they like to have their first impression. I've never been that person. Even when we're not talking poetry, I want to be prepared. I do not like surprise parties. I do not like surprise poetry. It just, I want to be prepared. But I do think there's, like you said, there's pros and cons to each way.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly been times where I have been caught by, I start reading a poem and it's just wholly inappropriate, and I'm like, I'll stop in the middle of it, because my eyes tend to read a few lines ahead of where my mouth is. And I'll just be like, okay, and we're aborting this one. I'm sorry. But not often. This is not often. It's usually like the only times I really do that is where I feel like the poem was written just to offend people.
Yes.
It was written to be like intentionally offensive. And it's like, okay, like this, there's not any real artfulness to this. It's just hurtfulness. Because I'll even say like hard topics, topics about violence or sexual assault or things like that. Like there's, in my mind, space for that as a topic. It's a thing that affects people. And I think that's worthy of being discussed. I think it's nice if there's a little warning ahead of time. I also, there's a difference between that and like a 300 line poem about hurting children. I don't want to read that second one. That's not, there's a difference between I was hurt and I'm expressing this pain, and hey, I'm just going to write this poem that is like really messed up and just going to offend a lot of people.
Yeah, it's all about the shock value, and basically those are the type of people who are absolute trolls.
Yeah, like there's no good intent behind it. There are ways to talk about sensitive topics that even can be a little shocking, as long as there's good intent and like healing behind it and a need to express oneself. But if the need to, just offend people and watch them get mad, I don't consider that art. That's just being a dick. So I will just abandon those. I'm like, okay, if you want to go read, stuff about just making people angry to make people angry, then you can go somewhere else to find that. But I don't really want it to be here. And I would say I'm pretty liberal, honestly, with what I do and don't consider art, because I will consider context, and impact and doing things for a shock value, because it's a chance to examine your morality and ask yourself, hey, this offends me and why, and kind of examine the why. But sometimes it's just like, oh, this offends me because it was written specifically to offend me. So there's a difference there. So I've posted the next one. And this is called Hyper Prismatic Bars by Lena61. And I will go ahead and read this one. I think it's my turn. Yes. Is it my turn? Or is it your turn? I don't remember.
It is your turn, yes.
Okay. This is Hyper Prismatic Bars. Was it all just a dream? Really such a blur. I'm not really a waitress. Used to be, but not anymore. It certainly wasn't Word Up magazine, nor salt, nor pepper. Unfortunately, it wasn't even Heavy D up in the limousine. But I was playing Biggie on the mind and saw the prompt for the poem, flew right back in time, and my brain started walking 8 Mile movie scene. Electrifying pink. Hate to burst your bubble. It's pretty, but don't let it be your personality double. Colors are amazing, but don't give out so much power because we make our own. Find it here where it cleanses within our shapes and lenses. Common senses, here come trouble. Pink ladies rule the school and grease is the word. But like I said, I'm not a pink girl. Teal me more. Teal me more every time. Rewind like lightning grease. Summer day, summer love, having a blast. Teal me more. Chills having a blast. Chills times two are multiplying. And saw the prompt, and here we go. OPI, my brain creates a hyper scene that's scenic. Hyper rich, but no Charlie Sheen. But I'm a tiger blood. Hyper pigmented, ecstatic, prismatic, chromatic, dramatic machine. Somatically emphatic and emphatically serene. Whenever I'm metamorphically speaking, like butterfly effect, it changes, color changes, shape shifting shifter seen and started tweaking. You little shady shifter. Shady Slim like Mad Max. Matter, I mean Hatter. She's got a gift, sir. My solar clock is is ticking tick tack tock. Goes my click clack clock. Golden shark, put down the rock, 'cause this changes everything. Your days of pop are numbered, little bubble. Pip pap pop. Your days are numbered time to go meet a boy as cute as can be, and he might ask me, "Como se llama?" I said, "Go take a taxi. Get in the back seat. Save the drama for your mama." End poem.
Great read there, Babbler. And oh man, this one was so clever. I just really enjoy and appreciate the way she used so many different of the colors names to blend together in a write that has such clever wordplay. It's hard hitting but fun at the same time. I especially got a big smile out of the mention of the pink ladies from Greece. Um, and this just feels like the idea of absolute fun chaos and being an original, the idea of and using color to express yourself. I think that's one of my favorite things about nail polish is the fact that you can match the color according to your mood. And there's a beetle crawling towards me, and if it gets on my legs, you'll probably hear me scream. So I'm hoping it moves slowly. And then I'll be after I'm done commenting, I'll be putting myself on mute to smash it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
completely distracted there. But yeah, this is so fun, so clever. It's got some great use of alliteration. I like how it really is about self-expression and the idea of taking life easy and learning to have fun with it. And I thought there were such great lines throughout, but I really enjoyed that last stanza. Very well done.
Yeah, I loved this. There's so many different references. So I assume, and I could be wrong here, but my assumption is that they went through several different nail polish colors and kind of put them all together into a piece, made it hyper prismatic bars. And I think the bars here is in reference to the fact that it rhymes and it's written kind of like a rap. And it starts with a rap. It starts. So the first nail polish color that I catch, obviously, is I'm not really a waitress, because that's I used to be a waitress was one of the color titles that was in the prompt. Um, And I'm sure there are way more in here, and I don't even know which ones all they are. Uh, I know it's shocking, but I didn't memorize all 1,701 uh, names of OPI nail polish colors. My bad. So I'm sure they're tucked in here all over the place, but I'm not sure exactly where they are. This first stanza kind of really hits on rappers, specifically hip hop. You've got Heavy D and Biggie and Walking 8 Mile being a reference to Eminem. You've got Salt and Peppa. Um, they've got some old school rappers in this first stanza. I'm imagining Limousine as maybe a paint color, perhaps doubling with the Heavy D reference. Um, and then the second one, we get more into that. It's turning into a rap more itself. And there's also the Grease references, and I think it starts for me at least with electrifying. I feel like electrifying pink is probably another nail polish color that probably brought up Grease because you've got Grease lightning and it's like it's electrifying. And then pink, like the Pink Ladies, being referenced here as well, as well as like this little bit of messaging in here. It's pretty, but don't let it be your personality double. Don't just be pink. Don't just be pretty pink. Although I do sometimes find the internalized misogyny of that a little weird. It's just a color. I remember being a young kid and my brother telling me his favorite color was pink, and I'm like, you can't have your favorite color be pink, it's girls color. And my mom is like, there's no girls and boys colors, they're just colors. Like and it's interesting because it's like I don't even know where I got that idea. Like my mom certainly never would have said that to me. That wouldn't be something I'd pin on her. So it's like, where did this become ingrained in me that pink things were for girls? The only thing I can really think of is the like store aisles, toy aisles, where everything for girls is pink. And if that's not necessarily the bad part, right? To assign colors to gender is weird, yes, but not like inherently bad necessarily, except for the fact that it's a bit exclusionary. The part that really bugs me is that pink is considered like vapid or stupid, and it's the color associated with women and girls. That's the part that really bothers me, is just like the devaluation of anything associated with women. So I thought that's interesting. And then we make our own power, find it here where it cleanses within our shapes and lenses, common senses. You've got a lot of great alliteration and rhyme going there, a lot of repeated sounds that work really well and aren't cliche or like overused. And I appreciate the use of internal rhyme as well. And then you've got the Pink Ladies. Pink Ladies rule the school and Grease is the word. But like I said, I'm not a pink girl. Teal me more every time. I'm assuming teal me more is an OPI pink color. That really sounds like a classic OPI nail polish title. Rewind like lightning Grease. Now we've got Grease Lightning backwards. And then this feels like some of the lyrics to Summer Lovin'. Summer day, summer love, having a blast. Kind of the repetition there. Intermixed with Tell Me More, which I think is wordplay for Tell Me More, which again is a lyric of Summer Lovin'. Chill times 2 are multiplying. That's definitely like a Grease Lightning reference there as well, the song. So there's so many, different things tied in here. And then you get, hyper rich but no Charlie Sheen, but I'm a tiger blood, and that just reminds me, that's a direct reference to Charlie Sheen's like coke-addled rant after it came out that he had like STDs and was high. I don't think anyone was super shocked that Charlie Sheen had a coke problem, but I do remember the weird tirades he would go off of, about like tiger blood and weird things. So it's funny that it's referenced here, and I wonder which part of this is like the nail polish color. I'm like, is Charlie Sheen the nail polish color, or is tiger blood? Like, I feel myself like over reading into this to try and find like the nail polish colors. Um, and again, we've got like great use of sound in this piece. Ecstatic, prismatic, chromatic, dramatic, machine, somatic, emphatic, and emphatically serene. And it's not even that hard to say. Like it rolls right off the tongue. But it sounds really complex, and it's got a pretty fast rhythm to it with a lot of consonant sounds. I find that like phonetically very pleasing. Um, you know, and all these color changes, kind of bringing you back to like the kaleidoscopic bit, which I think works really well too when you consider like how many different colors of nail polish there are if you're picturing like little chips of them all. You little shady shifter, Shady Slim, which makes me think of Slim Shady, which is Eminem, which brings me back to the first stanza. Like Mad Max, and I'm like, whoa, is Mad Max nail polish color? But now I'm thinking like also like the '80s post-apocalyptic, apocalyptic movie. And then Matter, I mean Hatter. So now we're tying into Alice in Wonderland. Which, the My Solar Clock is ticking, tick tack tock. Makes me think of the White Rabbit, always being late. Golden Shark put down the rock, I thought, which is interesting because I have no idea what that's a reference to. I'm not sure. For some reason, I picture like that meme from the early 2000s of the guy who was like huffing metallic paint and had it all over his face. But I don't think that's what it's supposed to be. That's just what it makes me think of. Your days of pop are numbered, little bubble. And I think that goes back to like the pink idea, like bubblegum pink. And then it ties us right back into Greece. Go meet a boy as cute as can be. And then he might ask me, ¿Cómo se llama?, which is Spanish for what is your name? What are you called? I mean, literal translation is what do they call you? But it's the same thing. It's like, what's your name? And I'm assuming that's another paint color. Or a rap reference or something. I'm not sure. I said go take a taxi, get in the back seat, save the drama for your mama. It's kind of like the end. There's just a lot of changing and shifting and movement in this, and it's fun. It makes me think of a the holographic nail polishes that were a big deal about 10 years ago. And I'm realizing I probably know too much about nail polish for someone who like doesn't wear any. So this is a fun write. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the shifting and moving and all the different things tied into it. It was chaotic and fun. So thank you, Lena61.
Absolutely. One thing I did notice about the OPI nail polishes is they did seem to tend to go in groups. And I was doing the same thing you were doing as I was reading this, is like, was this one of the groups? I did remember what stood out to me was there was a group of nail polish names that were after the Muppets. So I thought, yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if every single reference to the movie Grease and the songs was actually a nail polish color.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, I did just what I found was a huge list of all the different collections, so I just grabbed them all and stuck them in a spreadsheet. So yeah, they probably
Very cool.
are in little chunks of themes.
Yeah.
It's a fun write. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
I'm grabbing the next one, which has a sound cloud. If you had that queued up,
Yep.
we'll listen to that. This is You Oughta Wear Purple by Northern Powerhouse.
All right. I'm going to get this posted into YouTube and then go ahead and go play that audio.
You Otto purple. My eyes were drawn like magnets to the violet of her stare, the you Otto purple of her make-up lips and hair. Suddenly her vibrant mauves made everything seem duller, where the colour is the woman and the woman is the colour. All reds and scarlets disappeared, just blended into silence. They lay crudely overpowered by her rich chromatic violence. Her over-lilac smoulderings the source of their obscuring. From the 50 shades of purple I had found the most alluring. You Otto purple were my words to compliment her. Her dizzy swell of lavender, the curve of her magenta, where passion paints in lavender like jagged amethyst, and the ripe plums of her purple lips were yearning to be kissed. We knew pleasures red and blue, I swore that we'd connect 'em. She took me to a different wave and both ends of the spectrum. And in the haste of leaving, with our spirits twinned we go. She put her hands upon my heart, and I said, Indigo.
Oh, man.
Oh. What you owe manning?
I thought I was on mute when I said that. I didn't hear the last line.
Oh.
I feel like it cut off.
No,
I'm sorry. I honestly thought I was on mute.
Well, what I saw, so it's funny, I can see in the studio, right? Because I have it like shared on a split screen.
Me too.
So for me on my end, you unmuted it just to say, oh man, and then it went back on mute.
Oops. Yeah, I can see in the studio, but I don't know if you're using a laptop or a computer, but like I was looking at my phone and it's so tiny on the phone. I can never tell if I'm unmuted until, like just by looking at the screen part, where our images are. But no, I'm sorry about that. No, the poem was fabulous. I just felt like it cut off at the very end.
Well, I heard the very end, so I'm not sure.
Did you? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. I don't know why I didn't.
Yep.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I bet. You know what it is? I bet it's just that my sound. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I probably had some little like internet quirk or something.
Quite possibly, but I heard it go all the way to the end, which is why I thought it was funny.
Oh, good.
You're just like, dang it, and I'm like, what? Yeah, no, I used to use my phone before we moved over to the current system, and then when we moved over to the current system, I'm like, I can't see. This doesn't work for me. So now I use my desktop because I have a giant monitor. So
yeah.
But yeah,
I get that.
I used to just bring the poems up on my computer and then use my phone for the sound, but not with this. I'm like, I can't tell what's happening.
Well, thankfully, I have both my phone and my Kindle Fire because, I use the phone specifically for running the studio and then the Kindle Fire for pretty much everything else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought this was really fun. I really enjoyed the rhyme of this, and then all of the rhyming I thought was really well done, and the sticking to the purple theme. I feel like the Northern Powerhouse here, used like every purple that you could think of going through all the lines. I also looked up the You Oughta Wear Purple because I'm just like, man, I wonder what color that is. Like, what is You Oughta Wear Purple? And it's actually a really pretty color. It's like a really dark, a really deep purple with kind of a metallic sheen on it. So I thought that was interesting. But this My eyes were drawn like magnets to the violet of her stare. The you ought to wear purple of her makeup, lips, and hair. So, like, she's very monochromatic. Her lips, hair, and makeup are all purple. Like, she's just very purple. Her vibrant mauves made everything seem duller. Just watching someone like so monochromatically purple just makes everything else seem kind of boring. Um, everything around it just seems so dull because it's so unusual and vivid. I really liked this rhyme where the color is the woman and the woman is the color, and rhymed with duller. I just thought was a great choice. There was something in particular about that stanza that just phonetically vibed with me. All reds and scarlets disappeared, so like red just isn't good enough. It's like gotta be purple. Violence here, not being purple itself, but close enough to violets that phonetically I think your brain kind of just makes the jump itself. This still jumping through all of these purples, her over lilac smolderings. The looks that you're getting. You ought to wear purple were my words to compliment her, which is funny because it's like if she's completely bedecked in purple, right? If I go out in public and my hair and my lips and my makeup and all of my clothes and my fingernails and everything are all shades of purple, and someone was like, "You ought to wear purple." I think you like more or less have to laugh because it's like it's a little awkward, right? Like, yeah. Really? Is it my color? It's a bit comical. I enjoyed the kind of like obscure things too, like the indirect references, the curve of her magenta, her dizzy swell of lavender. Like, I don't even know like what you're describing. Could be just about anything. Bosom, butt, knee, heel. Like, there's so many different body parts that could be, and it's just vague, which I enjoyed. I thought it was kind of funny. The ripe plums of her purple lips, that's a color, yeah, but it also kind of gives hint to a shape, not just a color, which I thought was fun. I also really liked this stanza for its rhyme. Phonetically, I thought it was enjoyable. We knew pleasure's red and blue. I swore that we'd connect them. She took me to a different wave in both ends of the spectrum. Going into like ultraviolet, being kind of like the link on the color wave, where red and blue meet. When you start talking about like the visible spectrum of color, red is the highest frequency that we can see in visible light, and blue being the lowest, and purple connects them. Which is kind of fun because when you mix red and blue, you get purple. And in the haste of leaving, with our spirits twinned we go. She puts her hands upon my heart, and I said, "Indigo." Obviously being a pun, like in you go. Another pun on color, that it's not quite purple, it's blue, and it's, about like leaving. So to me, it's almost like maybe a little hint of sadness, but also indigo is just a beautiful color. So I thought this was really fun. Really, really ran with the nail polish shade and applied it in every which way. Woman made entirely of purple. I thought it was a lot of good fun. So thank you, Northern Powerhouse, and thank you too for the SoundCloud. It was a lot of fun to hear you read it in your voice, to get that narration the way you wanted it. Very enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Great comment, Babbler. Yeah, the wordplay of indigo was actually so very clever. It was great to hear this in his voice. He has a great reading voice. Purple being one of my absolute favorite color. I just really felt like this poem just appealed to me so much. Great rhyme and flow. wonderful word play throughout. And I like the sensuality, but it's a playful sensuality. And I like how it speaks on the reds and the combination of reds and blues to create purple. The idea that a relationship is created by the highs and lows, the ups and downs. And I thought there were just such great lines throughout. But I especially like all reds and scarlets disappeared, just blended into silence. They lay cruelly overpowered by her rich chromatic violence. Her over lilac smolderings, the source of their obscuring. From the 50 shades of purple I had found the most alluring. I like the humor in that, the play on instead of 50 shades of gray, 50 shades of purple, which it would not surprise me if there actually were 50 shades of purple. But yeah, just an absolutely delight of a right to read. And I like how this speaks on the passionate power of a woman who becomes the colors that she boldly displays. Very well done.
Yeah, it makes me think a little bit of Steel Magnolias when she's like, "Pink is my color. It's my signature color." This person would be purple. No. I've posted the next one by Poetry and Percussion. I think it's your turn, Pam.
All right. There we go. Getting back to where I need to be. Envy the adventure, the daily reflection of an average man on a walk to a forgotten field. What do I miss? Mostly the things that I missed. The lines between the lines, as untold stories imagination will scribe, like a seasoned musician playing with free will in an empty room. At what age does innocent discovery weather into sadness? As a young girl at a bus stop pleasingly plucks a buttercup off an adjacent lawn, the others notice nothing. I notice her smile with a heavy time weighted head and an out of tuned accordion muscle neck. I look up. Evolution resistant clouds float in pulsation as a miraculous dance that should never fall to commonality. Is it a fleeting existence at the folly of the winds, or a simple etude longing to join a harmonious movement in the eternal symphony of water? Bird on a wire is the odyssey of bones thrown in the air to a spaceship. Who is the victor? The wire makers, hypnotized by their own creation, lost beyond reality, or the bird who mocks technology as a park bench and owns the third dimension with whimsy and fancy free flight to mock the earth itself as it charms its soaring path. The romance of the airport soars beyond the literacy as a love for adventure ignites vapor trails. But the breath of an adventure dreams the exotic and the quixotic, and the arrival gate a looking glass. I lie in a field, grass blade between my teeth, envious of the adventures that paint the afternoon sky, of the girl whose world was a flower in hand, and a lazy summer day in a forgotten field. It is a dream of the ulcer ultimatum slave, businesswoman in flight. End poem.
Lovely read, Pam. Thank you. This was interesting to me. This envy the adventure, the daily reflection of an average man on a walk to a forgotten field. So like these are like daily kinds of thoughts. I don't think they have the same thoughts every single day, but this, as they walk and observe, they kind of think of everything by associations, um, and bigger picture kind of things. The little details in the larger picture they paint and the interconnectedness of things. They think very systemically. What do I miss? Mostly the things that I missed. They're playing with the word miss and the meanings thereof. Things that you miss because of absence, a yearning, a longing, and mostly the things that I missed, things that were not observed. um, also could be reversed. It's, I think, very intentionally ambiguous there. The lines between the lines, as untold stories, imagination will scribe. This seeing the things that are unsaid, the connections that are unpointed out, that are kind of vague and associative, like a seasoned musician playing with free will in an empty room. It's almost like a redoing of the idea of, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? A musician, a really good one, playing music to no one. No one will hear it, so what's its purpose? Well, yeah, in that case, with he's hearing it. And also, practice and learning. Not everything that's done has to be done for other people. You can do things just for yourself. What age does innocent discovery weather into sadness? For some people, never. That's rather enviable, right? That's the adventure that is envied in the title, because it doesn't have to. It's all on your mindset. As a young girl at a bus stop pleasingly plucks buttercup off an adjacent lawn, the others notice nothing. I notice her smile. And it's funny because I feel like there's a lot of things that people consider unobserved that are actually very much observed, but nobody really points it out, right? It's not like this is the only observation of a girl picking buttercups. But it might be something, there may be things that are like so commonplace that they don't really get pointed out because they're just considered every day and become background noise, and people don't really observe them like they used to, until you do, right? Until you're thinking about it, until you choose to take notice of these things. I think a lot of people observe little nothings that are not nothings, here and there. With a heavy time-weighted head and an out-of-tuned accordion muscle neck, which I loved, by the way. I pictured just like this neck pain, um, as narrated by the sound of like a broken accordion. This like, but harmonic, which I can't do because I'm not like a throat singer. Sound as like a stand-in for like aging and having like a tweaked neck, and a heavy time-weighted head, just kind of having your head like dangle and drag your neck down. I loved the kind of visual that pulled in audio there. I thought that was lovely. I look up. And so this I look up to me following this previous line means they don't normally look up. If their head is heavy time weighted and on this accordion muscle neck, to me that gives like a droopy, almost kind of bouncy head. So the looking up probably is not particularly commonplace. You might get an occasional bobbing view, but to me that neck shape gives more of a looking down or kind of doldrum vibe to it. So to choose to look up. And then I also found the concept of evolution resistant clouds an interesting concept. This, they're not made of DNA, so they're not going to evolve in the way that a lot of things evolve. And yet clouds are made up from like water vapor and pressure and climate and wind flows, which have to do with tides, which have to do, they have to do with a lot of things. There's a lot of things that go into the formation of clouds. And so if you change too many things, they absolutely do change. Like if you look at like a gas giant planet that has cooler temperatures or hotter temperatures or different pressures, the clouds are very much not like Earth. And so clouds absolutely can change and develop as the environment around them changes and forces change. So I thought that it was interesting to describe them as evolution resistant. You know, um, float in pulsation as miraculous dance that should never fall to commonality. This watching this dance of the clouds, and seeing that like as miraculous and uncommon. It is a fleeting existence at the folly of the winds. These clouds, they come and they go, and they cease to exist. And there's rain, and there's heat. All kinds of things. Cold. Um, that change these things. They're just constantly in motion. A simple etude longing to join a harmonious movement in the internal symphony of water. This, we're now talking about Krebs cycle. Yay, 8th grade biology. um, and the way that water is kind of cyclical. And it's kind of again tied into music and the human experience and like this emotionality to it. Bird on a Wire is the odyssey of bones thrown in the air to a spaceship. And that is just such a wild string of words, right? That are like, there's loose association there. A bird on the wire. Birds can sit on wires because their feet are like insulated against conductivity. Never mind the fact that most telephone wires are not just like bare electrified wires. Like you typically have to like puncture the coating. Could you imagine if they didn't insulate power lines? There'd be like way more deaths. Wildlife would just be like filling the ditches. But even so, birds' feet are still like not conductive. So I thought that was interesting. And then is the odyssey of bones. So like the traveling of bones, the journey of bones. And that makes me think of like the way that birds migrate. They change. They travel like the globe, really. Thrown in the air to a spaceship. So like birds on a wire is the equivalent of bones thrown in the air to a spaceship. The same journey. I thought that was really interesting. Visually, I struggle with it a little bit. I'm not quite sure what that connection is, and I'm trying to find like the UFO like aspect of it or alienness of it, and I just picturing like when cartoons get electrocuted and you can see like the skeleton in there with the power, and it's like, okay, the bones. But I'm trying to envision a spaceship of it. Who is the victor? The wire makers hypnotized by their own creation, lost beyond reality, or the bird who mocks technology as a park bench? You've got people who are like, look, we've electrified the world, there's electricity everywhere, and this bird that's just like, it's a place to sit. Because they don't use the advantages of technology. And how things have, different things have different perspectives on things based on how usefulness they are and how interactive they are to them. An animal with conductive feet might not, you're probably not seeing too many monkeys sitting on the telephone wires. This kind of how do things impact you? The romance of the airport soars beyond the literary. And I think this is probably just not the right soars. I think it's supposed to be SOARS, but perhaps it's intentional, like an open boil, like a soar. Beyond the literary, as love for adventure ignites vapor trails. This being taken to another new place. They say like books open new worlds. Well, so do planes. You can suddenly travel across the world and see all these places and ignite vapor trails. But the breath of an adventure dreams the exotic and the quixotic, the arrival gate, a looking glass. This kind of getting to see the world via technology, which is kind of, again, backtracks to that previous stanza about like nature and technology, with the power lines and the space trip. I lie in a field, grass laid beneath my teeth, envious of the adventures that paint the afternoon sky, of the girls whose world was a flower in hand. You can have an adventure picking a flower in a ditch, and you can have an adventure going on a plane and seeing the world. You know, it's just as about your perspective and what you consider an adventure. And a lazy summer day in a forgotten field is a dream of the Ulster ultimatum slave businesswoman in flight. So this businesswoman who is forced to fly and travel and see the world would rather be sitting in the forgotten field doing nothing. So like your everyday could be someone else's dream. What you experience every day could be the adventure that someone else wants. And the things that you want might be the things that they're forced to do. So, I think that to me is a tidbit on just being appreciative for what you have. The importance of perspective and seeing how many different perspectives other people might have, from the clouds to the birds on the power lines compared to the inventors of the birds, the girl with the flower and all the people not paying attention that have kind of lost that youthful exploration of their world and are just view everything as humdrum because it's become normal. This to me, it's about finding adventure and appreciation for your own circumstances. You can find an adventure in the everyday if you want to. Dreams are always things you don't have, right? Appreciate realities too. So I enjoyed this. Right, I thought it was well done. Thank you, Poetry and Percussion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great comment there. Yeah, it's wonderful. The thoughtfulness that Poetry and Percussions puts into his writes. This one being no exception. And I did feel like the Romance of the Airport Soars was purposely done. That with that, I thought that was clever. And wonderful imagery. Really, I don't know, this one I really felt drawn to because it does speak on the idea of, not only the everyday adventures, but the importance of paying attention and noticing the small details that adds interest and texture to life. It's great to be able to, travel if you have that, option, if that's something you can do in life, getting out there, that's a wonderful thing. But if you're traveling all over the place and not actually looking around, not actually taking things in, then it really doesn't, you're not using the experience to your full advantage. And that even goes for those everyday walks, even if you walk by the same places over and over again. I live in, like I said before, I live in a fairly small town, and I tend to walk the same way, but sometimes I'll just kind of switch things up a little bit. And even when I'm walking by, I'll walk by the river that through town quite often. And, I just always have to stop and look, because you just never know what you're going to see, what you're going to observe. And I like that he brings in the young girl with the flower, because I think a child looking at something as simple as a flower or a stone that they pick up, really is how we all need to take time to look at life, to appreciate those small blessings and joys, those, simple moments in life where we look at the beauty and the music that the world creates around us. Um, and I thought there were great lines throughout, but I did especially like, at what age does innocent discovery weather into sadness, as a young girl at a bus stop pleasingly plucks a buttercup off an adjacent lawn? The others notice nothing. I notice her smile. And then, the last two stanzas too. I thought that just really thoughtful lines, beautiful imagery. And to me, that end stanza really speaks on the idea of, if we become so obsessed with work that we don't find time to enjoy the simple things in life. So excellent, right, and very well done.
Simple joys, not so simple. I think
Exactly.
the smallest things can be like the most important things. And when you're really like depressed too, sometimes that's all it takes. It's just those little things. Like just make yourself get out of the house. Go find something.
Oh,
Look for
yes.
something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This weekend, my kids went camping, and so my daughter, my oldest daughter, needed me to babysit her Saint Bernard, and I had to go over to her place because I can't have any pets in my apartment. And oh my goodness gracious, I tell you, there is nothing better than snuggling up to a big dog. Just to make you feel good. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
like, it was nothing, like I said before, sometimes it's the things that aren't necessarily exciting that just bring that little bit of comfort. And I actually have not been getting outside enough to be able to get out of my apartment and just, spend time with what I call my furry granddaughter.
Nice.
Which is the kind of granddaughter I actually like at this point, I'm perfectly happy with that. So
good.
yeah, that like, I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but your comment made me think about just how like comforting and happy of a moment that was for me, especially with not getting out enough lately.
No, I felt the same. I was going through a really hard time like a couple years ago. And I had a lot of people that cared about me, which was really nice. I was getting calls every day, people checking in, making sure I was okay. And but one of the things I would just do is I would snuggle my dog, and I'd take my dog on a walk, and I'd feed my dog, And then it was funny because I had so many people be like, if you need someone to watch your dog, and I'm like, please don't take my dog from me.
Right.
Like,
This is
I
the
don't,
last thing I need.
right? I'm like, I don't think you understand like how badly I need my dog right now. Like, I get that you're offering to be helpful because so many things are overwhelming, but like this is the thing I am clinging to like give me purpose right now. So
Yes.
don't take my dog.
Yes.
You can
I
help
would
with
probably, like, if that was
anything
me,
else.
I'd be like, it's like, if you truly want to be helpful, you could wash my dishes while I snuggle
Yes.
with my dog.
Yes. And then I was very frank about that. I'm like, the things I need are not I like, don't take my dog. Like, I need my dog right now. I'm like, if you want to help, like, I need laundry done. I need dishes done.
Yes.
I need groceries bought. Like, these are the things I'm struggling with. Right now my dog is actually the only thing getting me out of the house or out of bed. So, don't take my dog.
Oh my gosh. Yep, they are great to have, that's for sure.
All right, I've posted the next one. This is Something Beautiful Was Here, although that's just it's interesting because it has the brackets around it, which on all poetry means that it was the first line of the poem. Typically, it auto does that, but it's not the first line of the poem. So it's Something Beautiful Was Here in brackets. And I'm sorry if I say the name wrong, but it looks like Omega AM is the author. So, and this goes like this. Morning leaves a silver secret upon the sleeping garden, each blade holding one bright world before the sun can claim it. I bend closer, afraid to breathe, afraid the smallest movement might make the magic disappear. Somewhere beyond the fence, the city wakes without noticing how much beauty survives in places nobody names. A sparrow shakes its wings, and the tiny jewel trembles but refuses to fall. Perhaps we are like that, briefly carrying whole universes inside fragile moments, pretending we are ordinary while holding light no one else can see. By noon, the drop is gone, but the leaf remembers, and perhaps that is enough to shine for a moment, to disappear without regret, and leave behind the feeling that something beautiful was here. End poem.
Great read, Babbler. Yeah, this is just such a beautiful write. I think Omega AM, and I do think there is a slight variation on the pronunciation of the A only because of the little mark above it, but I have no clue. Like maybe she could send one of us a like how to phonetically pronounce her name. But wonderful imagery and metaphors. Uh, I do have to say, even if it was that she started out at first having the first line be something beautiful was here, that actually makes a really good title. Um, and wonderful imagery and metaphors. I like how this speaks on the idea of how peaceful morning can be, and the idea of appreciating the temporary nature of that beautiful and fragile moment where the dew drops are on the grass and the sunlight is the first morning sunshine is just hitting those grass blades just right, and then comparing it to us, to our own souls, and the beauty within ourselves. And there, oh man, I mean, all the way through, this is such a wonderful write. Because, and I would say that second to last stanza is my favorite because I really do like that. But honestly, that second or that third stanza would make very little sense and wouldn't have the strength it does if the first two didn't set it up so perfectly. The idea of just appreciating the beauty of the moment, and especially appreciating it when you know it's temporary. Um, yeah, and I thought there were such great lines throughout, beautifully written and very well done.
Yeah, I thought this was very lovely, very delicate, and in retrospect, having read the piece, I especially like the title because Something Beautiful Was Here was written there and then it was deleted. So it literally was there but isn't anymore. So it's interesting. It like stands in for itself. Like this was the title, but it's not anymore. Which I think matches the theme of the poem beautifully, whether intentional or not. because this is about impermanence, right? It's about enjoying beautiful things that don't last. It makes me think of this clip that I saw where they were discussing flowers with a florist, and I forgot who all was there. There were two people there, but one of them was, I feel like it might have been Nick Cannon, but that could be entirely wrong. And the other one was Drew Barrymore, and they were talking about flowers, and there was this complaint that they die. How do you make them last longer? What can you do to make the flowers last longer? And the florist just kind of took their hands and was like, they're not meant to last a long time. They're meant to last a short time. They're meant to remind you of how fleeting beautiful things can be, and to appreciate them while they're here and while they last. And it was a really kind of beautiful moment. It was funny because it went completely over the one person's head, but you could see that it really clicked with Drew Barrymore. To me, this is about that similar kind of thing, appreciating the fragile and temporary state of something beautiful. These little dewdrops in the morning, these little spheres that are on the plants that aren't going to last forever. They're going to evaporate. They're going to disappear. They're going to fall off, and to appreciate them, this momentary beauty, and how much that stands in for other things as well. Our own lives, the people in our lives, the moments of our lives, and to have witnessed that fragility, to have witnessed that temporal moment, makes it last longer because now it's living in your memory. Now it is something that was, and something that has been, and it's something that can be recalled. And so I thought that was really quite lovely. It made me think of that. By noon the drop is gone, but the leaf remembers, and perhaps that is enough to shine for a moment, to disappear without regret, and leave behind the feeling that something beautiful was here, and to leave that lasting impression. To have been appreciated in the short moment that it existed. So I thought this was quite a lovely piece, and a rather thoughtful response to getting the nail polish color Dazzling Dewdrop. So lovely write. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Let me grab the next one. I'll put that up on the board. I am not 100% sure how the title is pronounced. I will say Engasht Tala. This is by Xanthos Basilius, and I believe it is your turn, Pam.
All right. That looks like something from the Cthulhu. The title looks like something from the Cthulhu mythos or something. Oh my gosh, yeah. So, all right, here we go. The rogue Comenard general towers over his throng of Sami hench people, depicted on set as always dwarven, pygmy-like, natives of the ice jungles, writ large in savage Hyperborea's special brand of terra incognito. Such racial stereotypes were common to the films of the mid-1330s, produced by alternate Hollywood, which in this universe, where Mohammed thus sprach Zarathustra, not Gabriel, was the also Mediterranean city of Casablanca, in Farsi, Ka-i-Sefid, run by Persian Moguls. Northern Europeans caught the joke's brunt, Today's hero, looking more like Rambo than a British Secret Service agent, is being lowered into an ornate vessel filled with boiling liquid. Water? Something worse? The audience is unclear. The villain wades through his shorter cronies, resting a prosthetic hand on what looks to be a delicate spigot. He crows, "Let us see how an Englishman makes tea." Struggling against his bonds, the actor cracks, "That line's a little tortured, don't you think? Yes, yes, you understand now, the steeped price paid by our enemies who brew the day." Before the punchline lands, Mr. Pavand slips free enough to kick his would-be doom over the unworthy heads of his foes while they writhe and scream, unprepared for heat. Our protagonist hits the title line, "Thank you for your warm hospitality. It is some of our nice to be here." End poem. Oh my goodness gracious. I love that, but he needs to start. Xanthos really needs to start doing recordings. But
This
that
is
is awesome.
so this is really fantastic. So I looked it up while you were reading, and Engasht Tala is literally like Persian for Goldfinger. And so
Oh my
this is like
god.
there's this retelling Goldfinger, the James Bond story, in like this weird alternate reality. um like, this is really funny. Where they basically have, first of all, the concept of the films of the mid 1330s really cracked me up. You know those medieval movies. Haven't you seen those? Uh but it flips things around, so like where mostly American and British, but some other Europeans as well. The cinema, the movies and culture kind of depict Arabic, Asian, and indigenous people as like short, primitive, savage. This is doing this to Northern Europeans. The Samis being the indigenous people of like Norway. And so like they're being like deliberately awful about it. They're making like an old school colonial film uh but in reverse, and that's the joke, right? Like they're lambasting stereotypes and racism and kind of flipping it around. Um you know, uh savage hyperborea, being like the way that American and British people might depict, you know, Papua New Guinea, or Native Americans or something like that, but instead of that area, they're talking about Europe, Hyperborea being like around the North Pole. It's the far north, so like Britain and Scandinavia being treated the way that Africa and Arabic people and Asia, quote unquote, the Orient, were treated in like early Hollywood days, especially, where it's just like really cringy. Like to go back and watch it and see how like minorities were depicted in the quote unquote golden age of Hollywood is just like horrific. It is so bad. And it's kind of turning it around and applying those same stereotypes to Europeans. So we've got like this alternate Hollywood, where white people are treated like these weird minorities, and it's like a Persian studio mogul. There's lots of multilingual puns tucked in here that are really enjoyable. You've got Casablanca, which in Farsi is, the Kake Safid. Like they're really turning words around. You know, they're mushing sounds really bad, but like they're using other languages to make puns about Western well-known things. You know, where Muhammad, the Spreka Zarathustra, not Gabriel, is like a mashup of like Islamic, Persian, and Zoroastrian and European, like all in there, you know. Kind of just all entangled in this alternate medieval version of Hollywood. It, you know, Pavand, Mr. Pavand is literally means Bond. So that's Mr. Bond. And then it's like this retelling of Goldfinger. With the puns being made at specifically British people here. You know, let us see how an Englishman makes tea, because now that's funny, because it's quaint and exotic in this universe, you know. And you know, that line's a little tortured, don't you think, is again just you know, they're joking that it's overused, which it's not, because it's not a real scenario. And then, like, that's not how racism happened to play out in stereotypes. And yet, at the same time, it's also like a bit of a pun, because we've got somebody literally being tortured. You know, so it being tortured is in reference to what's happening in the film. So this kind of breaking the fourth wall. You know, and then the steeped price paid by our enemies who brew the day. You know, they're more cheesy puns. Like, it's just cheesy puns. And I believe brew the day is a nail polish color. So, I don't know about anything else, but that I know that's a nail polish color. You know, we've got all these tea puns kind of lambasting English people. You know, thank you for your warm hospitality. It's so very nice to be here. Is again like this horrible pun that is also a nail polish color. This is a really wild and interesting take on it, and I really kind of love it, because it's just wacky. You know, a samovar is like a kettle that's used like in Russia and Iran and Asia. Like, so it's another tea pun. This is hilarious. It's this weird pun-filled alternate universe that turns racism around and makes the Englishman the ridiculous foreigner who ha 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 drinks tea. And turns, you know, like the Sami people into like the disturbingly exoticized natives. Yeah, it's like 1960s Hollywood set in the 1330s and run by minorities. I don't know. I love it. It's absurd, and yet weirdly cogent. So I greatly enjoyed this. This was wild.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Great comment. Yeah. You know, I think the absurdity of this is what makes it work so well for this particular topic and contest, because honestly, like, the OPI nail polishes really do have some very absurd kind of names. I love the wordplay and the humor in this. Yeah, I did especially get a big kick out of, you know, let us see how an Englishman makes tea, struggling against his bonds, the actor cracked. That line's a little tortured, don't you think? Yes, yes, you understand now the steeped price paid by our enemies who brew the day. Oh my gosh, that just cracks me up. But, you know, the brilliant imagery and metaphors. This is a rite that takes a rite on time that has been twisted and turned upside down, perspective that has been twisted and turned upside down, and, you know, putting us into a frame of mind where we see the ridiculousness of, the ridiculousness of, the old movies and the stereotypes, when it's put into the perspective of what if things were like turned on their heads. And I did also like the to the, such racial stereotypes were common to the films of the mid 1330s. And I think that really makes, it's humorous, but it also makes a great point on the idea that, look at how far we come, like the thinking that people had when it came to stereotypes. Well, even nowadays it's not as bad, but like, yeah, you look at movies of like the 1930s and 40s and the idea of stereotypes, and and it feels like you watch some of those and it does look like you're watching movies from the Middle Ages. But yeah, this is to me a particularly clever and entertaining write, and very well done by Xanthos Baslios. Are you on mute, Babbler? Yes, you are.
I am on mute. Yes, I was just
All
saying
right.
I really enjoyed all of the intelligent subtext underneath all of the absurdity of that piece. I think it was wonderfully
Yes,
done.
that's the thing. And really, honestly, to me, humor is one of the best ways. Humor and absurdity is one of the best ways to deliver a message. People don't always want messages delivered with a hammer,
I almost
or
never do. I would
right,
prefer
right,
to
yeah.
feel, even if it's not true, I would prefer to have that aha moment that feels like I put it together myself, even if that's not the case, because it's spelled out for you, but it does take a little tickling to find, which I prefer. I like feeling like I found it, even if it's, there on purpose, if that makes sense.
Yes, that absolutely, I get that.
I feel the same way when I read books. Like, don't tell me what to feel. Lay it out for me so that I feel that way.
Yep.
Okay, well, I have one more, and this is Pull the Plug by Peter Solway, and I will give this one a read. Tub of leftover suds, bubble bath deluxe, never to rinse and flush. Once a modest actress's bliss, covered wagons of breasts, pointed toes surfacing. All action, cut and pretend, alone in the universal scheme of things. Sally getting the subway home. Questioning her strange existence. Spruiking bubblegum. Back home gurneying her skin. Chemicals hazardous. Has chem in parking station. Attendant saying, saw you on that ad. Thought you got the tube home. Real cheesy like, man. Gum chewing, golden bubble blowing. Give back her fur-lined keys, penthouse up above with heated sauna. Steam off that bubblegum product. Subterranean attendant forcing loose lock at the trial said she was asking for it. Uncovered wagons of pioneer lust. Judge Black, once Indian defending, agreeing. Sally, a modest slut. Just salivating about endless connections in a universe with more rhyme than questions, more rhyme than reasons. Sensible narrations, nipples showing like on the French Connection. Protesters down below, no more polluting offsprings, orphans of Sartre existentialism. Sally, go back home to small town plot. End poem.
Great read there, Babbler. Well, this certainly feels like Peter's usual style. Once a modest actress's bliss covered wagons of breasts, painted toes surfacing. That I feel like that's very relatable imagery to many people who try to fit into a bathtub, and your legs are your feet are either sticking up or your breasts are poking out of the water. But lots of references to pink and bubbles. I don't know. I feel like this well, the title "Pull the Plug" is a great play. The idea of looking for some sort of excitement in life, looking beyond the small town life, but realizing that sometimes you have to pull the plug on the plans. And I just really thought there was intriguing lines throughout. I feel like this is definitely a poem I will have to read a couple times. But I did also like the bite of humor in this. Thought you got the tube home real cheesy, like man, gum chewing, golden bubble blowing, giving back her fur-lined keys, penthouse up above with heated sauna. I don't know. This to me is like it's part of what it speaks on to me is trying to figure out where you belong. Excellent right and very well done.
Yeah, I really liked this piece. It's interesting. It's satirical. It's kind of this portrait of a woman like being turned into a sexual image by like advertising men and media and even the legal system. I get this story of like an actress or a model that's doing a ridiculous bubble bath ad. And like you said, in a bathtub, it's either your boobs are out or your feet are out. Like it's not tall enough for both.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, the use of covered wagons of breasts, and we kind of keep getting pulled back into covered wagons. It kind of uses this frontier imagery, like the West, and it's almost like an allegory for female sexuality and comparing that with like conquest. Go explore. Like her body is something to be like invaded and claimed and marketed and looked at. Um, and then we kind of follow her out of this advertisement and into like her everyday life where she rides the subway home. And I thought there was interesting, there was a dash there, the subway, the low way, there's several different ways you could take that. And I do think it's intentional. And she's questioning her existence there and removing all these products from her skin. To me, it's like asking, like, who is she when she isn't performing like Sally the advertisement, Sally the naked woman in the bubble bath, Sally the product seller, and she's trying to like become herself, but she can't because it's following her. The parking attendant immediately recognizes her and sexualizes her. I saw you on that ad. And then it's worse than that because he like breaks into her house, forcing loose lock, said she was asking for it, and Sally a modest slut. So he feels like entitled to her body, and he feels okay with objectifying her to the point of sexual violence and blaming her for it because she did an ad for bubble bath. That they've like manufactured her as this sexy commodity and then used that image that they created as evidence that to imply that's who she is. When it was like never really the case. Sally is punished for the persona that other people constructed around her. And there's lots of interesting bits of chaos in this piece. There's lots of like misspellings and puns and advertising language and little references to things. As Peter Solway is known to do and known to do well. It's a bit like channel surfing through pop culture, um, and yet the bigger story to me is just, that Sally doesn't even really know who she is. She's trying to locate herself in a place where everything has been like determined for her. She's been painted to be like a naked bimbo in a bathtub so that everyone assumes she's a naked bimbo in a bathtub, and she doesn't really know how to escape that. There's lots of references to that, and then the ending, like Sally go home to small town plot. You've got the double use meaning of the word plot there, plot being this small town piece of land, which again takes me kind of a frontier image, but also to a movie or a story, like go back to a simple and basic life. Like, you're not allowed to be here in the city because you're, a bimbo hoe that we decided that you were, being corrupted by the city and sex and fame and Hollywood and publicity, and that she should return to her little hometown and live her meek little life, which again is another story that's just being painted for her. So I thought this was interesting. And the title, Pull the Plug, I think is in reference to the bathtub. So I enjoyed it. I thought this was a well done write. Thank you, Peter.
Absolutely.
And it's 11:30. Wonderful show. Lovely poems. I really appreciate all the writes, and thank you, Northern Powerhouse, for the SoundCloud, and thank you, Pam, so much for running the show and joining me here as a stand-in for Aphasiana. Always lovely to have you.
Good to be here.
I guess we'll see you next week. I won't see you next week. Me and Aphasiana are swapping. I will be in LA, but Aphasiana will be here.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's good to know.
So, have a wonderful night, everyone. And I'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.